Let's start with the headline that has sent the British establishment into a quiet, furious panic. The Windsors are the most expensive royal family in Europe. Not my words, the Times words. A paper that usually tiptoes around royal spending has suddenly decided to state the obvious, and the ripple effect has been delicious. Because any time the truth creeps out about the monarchy's cost, something magical happens. People stop obsessing over Meghan Markle for 5 seconds and start looking at the actual drain on their wallets. And that, my friends, is the one thing the firm cannot stand. So let's dive in. Let's unpack the money, the entitlement, the PR gymnastics, and of course, why Meghan and Harry continue to threaten an institution whose biggest fear has never been scandal. No, its biggest fear is accountability. According to the Times piece, coronations, weddings, funerals, every royal spectacle gets dipped straight into the pockets of the British taxpayer. And suddenly the narrative becomes very interesting. Because for years the tabloids have insisted that Harry and Meghan are the ones costing the public money. That somehow 2 people who left royal duties, who no longer take public funds, who live thousands of miles away, are the burden. Meanwhile, the actual bill, the real one, keeps piling up in the UK, attached to the people still in the palace. The same taxpayers who are told to ration heating in winter are also told to clap like seals at gold-plated carriages, multi-million-pound renovations, and constant royal tours that generate nothing but headlines. And this is exactly where Harry and Meghan become a problem. By walking away, they prove something the palace never wanted proven. Being a royal doesn't have to cost the public a single penny. For decades, the monarchy has sold one claim relentlessly. We bring in tourism money. A lovely fairy tale, completely untrue but adorable. And yet, when actual economists look at tourism data, guess what they find? People come for Buckingham Palace, not the people in it. They'd still come if it were a museum. They'd still come if Charles decided to retire in Cornwall and William moved to a modest 3-bedroom semi-detached in Reading. The buildings matter. The history matters. The monarchy, not so much. This is why the Times article hits so hard. When you lay out the costs in cold numbers, the illusion shatters, and the UK public is left staring at a very uncomfortable reality. They're paying millions for an institution that gives them very little in return. But here's where things get even more revealing. Let me repeat something that the royal rota never wants to say out loud. Meghan Markle generated more global positive attention, brand engagement, and economic uplift during her 2 years as a working royal than the entire royal family combined. Fashion economists tracked her influence. Her outfits sold out instantly. Her patronages flourished. Her mere presence at an event guaranteed coverage across continents. To put it bluntly, Meghan earned her keep, and then some. Meanwhile, taxpayers were footing the bill for the rest of the monarchy out of tradition, not results. And that contrast, Meghan's self-sufficient value versus the palace's cost, became the biggest threat of all. Because if the monarchy were judged by results, value delivered, work accomplished, Meghan would be at the top of the list, and several senior royals would be quietly escorted to the exit. Let's talk about Harry, because the article inadvertently highlights something else. Prince Harry is the first senior royal to financially liberate himself from the monarchy in modern history. He left, he built a career, he produced content, he earned his own money, No taxpayer funding, no golden cushions, no free police protection, no palace subsidy. He is the living embodiment of what the monarchy claims to encourage: duty, independence, dignity, except he's doing it outside the system. And that is why the palace cannot stand him. Harry's success proves that royal life is a choice, not a necessity. That you don't need a palace to have purpose. That you don't need public funding to have impact. And most dangerous of all, that you can build a life based on your values, not your title. The monarchy survives because people believe its members are uniquely important. Harry disproved that completely. And Meghan? She amplified it. Now, let's address the very pointed photo used by the Times: Charles and William, smiling tentatively in top hats. Because the image is symbolic. It captures exactly why the article matters. The two men who represent the monarchy's present and future are also the ones at the centre of the spending. And with every headline about the monarchy's cost, the spotlight shifts back to the heirs where it has never belonged, in their opinion. William has spent years crafting an image built on austerity optics. A modest home. A carefully curated "I'm just like you" persona, minimal appearances, controlled footage. But numbers don't lie. His lifestyle is publicly funded, his security is publicly funded, his future coronation, publicly funded. And between Charles's lavish spending and William's quiet, expensive preferences, the total cost becomes impossible to justify. Which is why the press so often leans on Meghan headlines. She keeps the public distracted. She keeps the rage pointed elsewhere. She keeps the attention off the palace balance sheet. But this time, the Times broke formation. Someone finally said, "Enough, let's talk about the money." And the palace is furious. Let's do a quick thought experiment. Imagine if Meghan and Harry stayed in the UK. Imagine if they had insisted on taxpayer-funded security, staff, homes and events. Imagine if they had participated in a lavish coronation or lived in a palace. The tabloids would have combusted. Columnists would have written 10,000-word op-eds about parasites and grifters. But when Charles spends, it's tradition. When William spends, it's duty. When Kate renovates, it's necessary. When Meghan breathed, it was apparently a threat. This is the double standard that made their departure inevitable. It's also the double standard that makes their independence so powerful. Because the more Harry and Meghan succeed on their own, the more obvious the contrast becomes. Here's the truth the palace doesn't want printed in any newspaper. Harry and Meghan created the blueprint for what a modern royal existence could look like, one without public funding, without taxpayer dependence, and without inherited privilege. They made their own money. They built their own platform. They cultivated their own audience. They fund their own security. They paid their own bills. They built a brand based not on titles, but on actual work. This threatens the monarchy because it exposes a question the firm never once asked. If Harry and Meghan can do it, why can't the others? Why can't the future king fund his own events? Why can't the coronation be privately sponsored? Why can't the royals live within their means? Why can't taxpayer funding be reduced? Why exactly are the British public footing the bill? The Times article doesn't answer those questions, but it forces Britain to ask them. Every few years, a story pops up about the monarchy's cost, but it's normally buried quickly. Not this time. Between the cost of living crisis, stagnant wages, and public frustration, this headline landed differently. And it lands differently because there is a contrast now. a living, breathing alternative. Harry and Meghan represent the version of royal life that doesn't demand public funding. Charles and William represent the version that does. One side adapts. One side expects tradition to shield them. One side builds its own income. One side waits for the sovereign grant. One side has proven they can thrive outside the system. The other side insists the system must survive at all costs, literally. Let's talk directly about Meghan now. Because in 2025, despite all the noise, all the headlines, all the orchestrated smears, the truth remains the same. Meghan Markle is not the drain on British taxpayers. She never was. She never will be. Her life is privately funded. Her projects are privately funded. Her influence is global. Her philanthropy is self-driven. Her appeal has nothing to do with palaces or titles and everything to do with authenticity. And if anything, she saved the monarchy money. Imagine the revenue she generated when she was working. Imagine the tourism boost. Imagine the fashion impact. Imagine the charity uplift. Imagine the global goodwill. She paid her way, she boosted the institution, she elevated the brand. And what did she get in return? Criticism, racism, backstabbing, and a PR machine that blamed her for problems she never created. The monarchy lost its most valuable asset, and the Times article inadvertently proves it. Because the question Britain is asking now, why are the Windsors so expensive, wouldn't exist if the most modern part of the family hadn't been pushed out. Here's the reality. The monarchy is facing a long-term PR crisis. Not because of Meghan, not because of Harry, not because of scandals or documentaries or Netflix deals, but because people are finally asking a simple, unavoidable question. What are we paying for? And the answer is getting harder to defend. A monarchy that costs more than any other in Europe. A monarchy that delivers less public engagement than ever. A monarchy shrinking in relevance. And a future king who rarely shows up. While the two people who built their own careers are blamed for everything. The Times article is the beginning, not the end. Public patience is thinning. Numbers don't lie. Receipts don't glitter. And the idea of accountability is spreading. Which brings us back to Meghan and Harry. They are the model of the future, self-funded, independent, impactful. They represent a world in which titles are symbolic, not expensive. They show what is possible when royals operate without taxpayer burdens. And that is why this headline scared the palace. Because it reminds the world of something the monarchy hoped everyone forgot. Harry and Meghan proved the British public deserve better. So, as the Times crunches numbers, as the public debates value, and as the palace braces for the next wave of scrutiny, one truth becomes clearer than ever. Meghan and Harry were never the problem. They were the solution the monarchy refused to embrace. And now, every time the public sees a bill, a royal expense, a taxpayer-funded luxury, the question will whisper louder. Why couldn't the rest of them do what Harry and Meghan did? The monarchy wanted to paint them as irresponsible. In reality, they were the only grown-ups in the room. And that, my friends, is why the establishment will forever fear their existence. Not because they left, not because they speak, not because they succeed, but because they expose the truth. A royal life doesn't have to cost the public anything. A royal life can be self-made. A royal life can be earned. And Meghan Markle, with her dignity, her grace, her work ethic, and her unapologetic independence, stands as the clearest reminder of that.